Hello and welcome to Little Things with Amber Albee Swenson. Today I'm continuing my series of conversations I recorded earlier this summer at the Christian Leadership Experience in La Crosse, Wisconsin. This conference was an amazing conference that brought together leaders from all over to share their experience and their expertise. It was put on by the Antioch Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization that has provided funding for many ministries, including Time of Grace. Today's guest was Dr. Ashley Schoof, an amazing woman who knows way more about the brain than I will ever know, for sure. But she was able to break it down into pretty simplistic terms so that even I could understand what she's trying to say. She gave us some practical, tangible things that we can do when we're struggling with fear. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey, it's Amber, wife, mother, type A child of God. Here at Little Things, we look at everyday issues from a biblical perspective with one simple goal: to know and love God more. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm a person that, as much as I've grown up, I've been someone that wanted, or people came to for help, advice, etc. And I've always been wired to figure out why do people behave the way that they do. So I'm kind of like this brain geek a little bit.
I noticed that, by the way.
I understand what the brain does to some degree. I don't try to be an expert at all, but I completely understand how people behave the way that they do. And that's really what I've sought out to study.
Mm-hmm. And where do you work and what does your practice look like?
I work currently at Christian Family Solutions. I am the Senior Director of Psychological Services there. So I don't necessarily today do as many counseling sessions as I did before, but I'm a trained child psychologist. So I really try to do a lot more with children and families.
Okay. So you were talking about fear and that we all have fears. And you kind of in the beginning of your presentation just helped us to understand that fear is normal. Yes. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, the Lord and His goodness wired us to behave a certain way, and we are created to be human beings, and human beings have emotions, and one of those emotions is fear. Fear, sadness, happiness, anger, all of those things, and those are things that we are always going to feel. And our neurology, our brain stuff, is really meant to do that, to protect ourselves and to have those emotions for that reason.
So that's important for us to recognize, because sometimes if you have a child who's afraid of something, it's easy to say, why are you afraid of that? That's no big deal. Just go back to bed. Yes, it's lightning and thundering out, but you know what? Just don't be afraid.
Yeah.
That's not super helpful in the moment when you're afraid.
Right. The moment that you're told don't be afraid, it automatically diminishes your experience of that emotion. And what we really want to do is build up what those emotions make us do anyway, the way that we were designed. So when we say to somebody, don't be afraid, you're saying that doesn't matter. Rather, what we can do is we can lean in and say, I wonder what that looks like. I wonder what you're really feeling. It looks like you might be scared. Come on over here. Let me help you with that. And if you can just hold that person and connect with that person a little bit more, you're going to not only validate that feeling, but you're also going to be able to build a connection with that human that is so vital for our very survival.
I want to go through, you mentioned what you do with a child, a baby crying in the middle of the night. So talk about that, because what you just said about validating feelings and comforting and providing a secure environment in the midst of fears really came home to me when you talked about that. So could you describe that?
Yeah, we're built, created to connect with people. And in the beginning of time, God said it's not good for man to be alone. Therefore, giving us definition for what connection should look like, social connection with other people. And part of that social connection is attachment. Attachment is something that maps our social world around us and allows us to understand how to do the next thing, okay? So when you're a small child, we're wired so wonderfully that we give people around us a signal. And in the middle of the night, a baby's going to cry, and a baby's going to cry because they need something. So when they need something, that mom or that dad or that caregiver is going to pick that kiddo up, going to give them what they need for a second. And then, by happenstance, they're going to cry again.
Mhm.
All right. And then they need something different. They might need to be fed. If they're needing to be fed, then they're going to get their food. They're going to cry again. They need to be burped. That's another need, another cry, another something we get to meet. And what we're doing is we're building brain connections on I cry, someone hears my cry, someone meets my need, and I can calm down. And in just one interaction, we can do that maybe 4 or 5 times. So think about the hundreds of thousands of times that happens in just 1 year of life.
Right.
Now 2 years of life, now 3 years of life. And sometimes people don't get to have that. And think about then what damage is done in that brain connection on I cry, I have a need, someone meets the need, I'm fine. That's
Yeah.
attachment.
Right. And so, like you said, when we are dismissive of a fear automatically, and it can be very hard, very easy as an adult to dismiss fears of young people.
Yes.
Like, that's just a bug. You're
Yep.
much bigger than the bug, move on.
Yes.
But that's not creating that attachment. That's
Yep.
not really giving them what they need in the moment because they're kind of flipping out.
Yeah. And it's easy to sense when a newborn, a baby has a need, they cry. You know, as an adult, we know what the cry means. Well, the cry becomes very different as children age. It could be screaming and running away.
Yeah.
I have a 15-year-old that is very deathly afraid of bees. And I look at him and I go, huh. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a bee over there. I wonder if we just move over here, buddy. You know, and he's 15. He's like much taller than me. And he, by all of my adult brain, should not still be afraid of bees.
Yeah.
But if I diminish that fear for him, and if I say, it's just a bee, dude, it's more scared of you than you are of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't build a connection with him.
So just removing him from the situation, is that enough?
Sometimes.
To build that connection, or are we supposed to do something more than that?
Yeah. And if I remove him from that situation and I say, I recognize you're afraid of this bee, let's go away a little farther away. If I move him from that, I'm taking care of the need, aren't I?
Right.
There's nothing I can do about the bees in my environment.
Right. Right.
But I can do something with him that communicates, I hear you, I see you.
Oh.
And I move him.
Okay, so what about if you are the parent and you have never, ever been taught this?
Yeah.
And so you did not know to teach this to your child. So now maybe your children are 6, 7, 8, older. They don't know how to self-regulate because they haven't been co-regulated. You don't know what you're doing. So when they flip out, you immediately flip out.
Yeah.
Now we've got chaos.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Yeah. That's such a good question because it happens all the time. And the greatest thing that we can do is get connected to a family therapist that can help us identify that you are being triggered by your child's trigger and it's not helping anybody. So then the parent has to learn what in the world triggered you there and how do we get you to self-regulate and what are the tools you need when this kid does the thing so that you can teach that child how to do the very thing that you are learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of chicken and egg.
Yes, a little bit.
Because you want to help the kid, but at the same token, you're flipping out.
Yeah.
And it's hard to help him regulate or even know how to go there if you're both a little bit crazy.
And we're never going to get this perfectly. Like, I know things and I still flip out. Like, I still flip out with all of my kids. And then you back up and go, okay, by the grace of God, I'm still okay at this. I'm still a good mom. That doesn't mean that I'm not a good mom. It means that I still have learning to do. And I'm a lifelong learner. We all are. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
You know, we need help and we need people to do that. But that intergenerational stuff is a thing.
And also, I think, too, with kids and with us, what helped in one season may or may not help in the next.
Oh, yes.
You know, things are constantly changing. And so what you use to regulate, maybe all you had to do before was breathe.
Yeah.
And now you're like going back to that breathing. It's like, that's not working.
That's not doing it. Yeah.
So now it's time to get another tool.
Yeah.
To kind of get us to the next place.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just show what this is?
Yes.
And how Yeah.
The flipping lid thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Flipping the lid.
I got it. Well, what's really neat is that our bodies are created by God, by design, perfectly in His image. And this hand model of our brain is exactly the vision of what the inside of our brain really looks like. So if you make a fist with your hand, with your thumb inside the wrong way, don't do this in real life. If you hit something by accident, you will break your thumb.
Is that from experience or
no?
Okay.
Nope. Just something we were taught. Nope. Okay. So the outer part of your fingers here is the outer part of your brain. Inside here is your prefrontal cortex. Out here you have your more cortex, and then this is the top cerebral part of your brain, responsible for thinking, for organizing, for planning, for things like that. And then when it is up, the downstairs part of your brain, this is your upstairs part of your brain, your downstairs part of your brain is going to be responsible more for your feelings, your memories, your emotions assigned to your memories, things like that. This is where something called your limbic system works. And really what our goal is to get an integrated brain. And when we have an integrated brain, our thinking parts are connected to our emotion parts. When we have fear, this flips. Our lid is flipped, and our thinking parts are no longer integrated with our emotion parts. Therefore, we won't be able to say, please don't be afraid of the bee. You don't have to be afraid of the bee. It doesn't make sense to be afraid of the bee because that person's not hearing any word I'm saying. They are afraid of the bee.
Right. So if you're listening right now and not watching, what you need to know is that you had a closed fist.
Yes.
And then when something happens, all of your fingers went up.
Yes.
So your fingers went up, your thumb was still down. And what you're saying is you're showing us that there is something happening in your body at the time that does not allow you to make sense or make good decisions in that moment necessarily because you're freaking out.
Yes. And even in regular life, if you see something scary across the street, and it makes you afraid naturally, this is a survival mechanism that we have built into the wiring of our brain perfectly, that we will not be able to even carry out walking across the street, that we will not be able to even understand the next thing that has to happen because by survival, we have shut down the higher order thinking that we have.
So this is the basis of triggers, basically.
Yeah.
When you're triggered, you don't even, it's happening. Your brain is going into the survival mode without you even thinking about it because you see something, you recognize something as unsafe or something that you have been conditioned to be afraid of. So when people are just like, don't let it trigger you anymore.
You can't actually control it.
Wait, what does that mean? So how do we go about being regulated if we're freaking out? So can we self-regulate or do other people need to do it for us?
It depends on the level of development that you have already. Usually, at any circumstance, we will need a co-regulator before we can learn how to self-regulate. When we have a co-regulator, it means we have a network and a social connection of people that we can lean into and say, this thing happened. Or we can lean into and say, I need some help. And that person can come and say to you, what do you need? Much like the caregiver said to the small baby, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to pick you up. What do you need? They cried. The crying looks different as we age. So we need people.
And then ideally, you go from co-regulating, having people coaching you through to being able to see the trigger, understand the trigger, and talk yourself out of the trigger as you get more used to self-aware and also, of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. What are those things that will automatically send you into a heightened state? Again, naturally, right? What are those things that you can then do because you became more self-aware after learning about a variety of coping skills, a variety of things that would help you? What are the things that you can lean into yourself and that self-regulation? Mostly breathing, journaling, taking a walk when you need to take a walk, being outside, prayer, communities. Get yourself involved in some of those things and you will be able to figure out how to regulate on your own.
So let's just say that we're in a situation where I'm flipping out and my friend is also flipping out because we're we've just been confronted with something on the street and we're
Mhm.
both, so we can't co-regulate each other.
Mhm.
What can we do in the moment if everyone's flipping out? What do we have any options to sort of get where we need to be?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's most important to recall or to remember is that touch is a restorative thing that we can engage in, healthy touch. There are certain pressure points in your joints, especially, and our fingers, our hands have a ton of joints. Again, cool God design, right? We have a ton of joints in our hands. And if you can learn that if I press down on my joint, on my first knuckle, my second knuckle, down to where my finger connects to my hand, down to my wrist. You might even get to your elbow. And if you started to push on those, you're actually going to release some neurotransmitters that will firmly calm you down, right?
Mm,
It won't work every single time. And one thing is never going to be the answer all the time. But this is something to try if you are having a flipped lid.
yeah.
Right.
And I think it's good to recognize too, if both of us are freaking out, maybe we're in the wrong environment and we're in
Sure.
the wrong situation, and there's
Yep.
good reason for that. So the first thing we need to do is remove ourselves from the situation,
Right.
and then start some of these other
Yep.
things to get there.
Yeah, and if you have a person that is more sound of mind and has that rational thought connected to their emotions, that person can lean in and just give a touch on a shoulder. The communication that, or the thing that communicates, is wild. It's I care for you. I'm leaning into you. I'm not moving away because you scared me.
Mhm.
It's I'm coming towards you and I care. And just from a little touch on a shoulder, you can even try to do some of those big bear hugs as well, if that's appropriate. But
Mhm.
touch is pretty restorative
Yeah.
when we have a flipped lid. And part of Jesus's miracles, he could have easily said, "You're healed," from afar, not even in the same room, not even in the same city. He could have
Mhm.
easily said that. But what does he choose to do? Proving definition wise that touch is restorative. He chooses to make mud out of dirt and spit,
Yeah.
put it on a blind man's eyes, and say, wash off your eyes and open them. You are
Mhm.
healed.
Yes.
Touching is restorative. And
Yeah.
I think is just given a great definition by all of the miracles that Jesus performed.
I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you about death,
Hmm.
because death is something that a lot of people fear. I mean, it's like you said, fear is natural.
Hmm.
And when we are talking about doing something that we don't know anybody who's ever come back and said, "Hey, it was great.
Hmm.
You should definitely do it."
Hmm.
But yet we all know we're moving that way.
Hmm.
There's nothing we can do about it. So how do you help your loved ones through death? Or if you're facing death yourself, how do we deal with the fear that comes with that?
Yeah. And it's interesting, death, because it's a fear of an unknown. It's a fear of a loss of control. I mean, we no one's ever done that before, and we can't learn from the folks that did that because they aren't here. So,
Right.
helping people through death is, I think, an incredibly important opportunity that we have. My mom died 5 years ago, and I remember sitting with her in the hospital room, right a couple days before she actually did pass away. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm scared to go to heaven." Who says that?
I
I'm
bet a lot
scared
of
to go to
people,
heaven.
I bet a lot,
Yes.
because she's actually saying, "I'm scared to die."
Yes. I don't know what that's going to be like. I've never experienced that before. And I grabbed her hand and I said, "Mama, it's okay. You were built for this.
Hmm.
You can go be with Jesus."
Yeah.
And that was really difficult to say to her as her daughter,
Right.
but it calmed her. And you could see the fear in her eyes. And then when I said, "It's okay. You're ready.
Mhm.
You might not feel ready, but you're ready. Because this is what the Lord has told us we can do.
Right.
This is what the Lord has said to us. Have all the fear rest at the cross.
Hmm.
Because I've got it for you and I've already prepared a place for you."
Hmm.
And I think that's just a really powerful message that we can give to people that have that fear. Because
Yes.
and of course it's something that you're going to be afraid of because no one's done it and we can't explain it.
Yeah, it does not testify to a lack of faith, or that
Mhm.
you don't have saving faith, or that you aren't
Mhm.
who you should be this big pinnacle of just faith moving forward.
Mhm.
I'm a huge advocate of being with people as they die, just
Mhm.
for that very reason. Even if they're going through the active dying phases where they're breathing rapidly and you
Mhm.
don't think that they can hear you. I've been with people, I've said the Lord's Prayer with a woman who was very much unconscious, had said nothing for days, and her lips started moving with me as I said the Lord's Prayer.
Mhm.
And so I just think that's one of those times that we can come alongside. As you said, the co-regulating,
Yeah, exactly.
it happens at the beginning of life.
Yep.
It also can be very effective at the end of life
Mhm.
when you rally around somebody who needs that.
Experiencing that, yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't it neat to see the power of the Holy Spirit come through in those
Yes.
moments? That wasn't you, it wasn't me, it wasn't anybody else but that.
Mhm.
And it's just really neat to be able to see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Any last tips or tricks for anybody who's saying, okay, I've struggled with fear, or I have a fear that I know that it does not make any sense. Is there anything other than finding someone to walk beside me? You mentioned breathing or going outside or saying a prayer.
Mhm.
Those the main things we want to leave them with, or is there anything else? When do we know that it's time to get counseling?
Yeah, I think it's important to talk to the people in your circles, starting with pastors or trusted friends or folks that might know a little bit more. There's a reason you went to go tell that person anyway,
Mhm.
but don't leave these things inside of you. That's not going to help. You will need to have a co-regulator almost in every situation throughout life until not really until you learn self-regulation, but when you can, right?
Mhm.
So if you can lean into some of those circles, when you know that you need extra help is when this is starting to affect the way that you function at work, the way that you function in your home, the way that you function in any other setting. And all you're really thinking about is this fear.
Mm.
That pastor, that friend, they can refer you then to those services that would definitely be more helpful.
That is super helpful. Thank you for that, and for all that you did and all that you do with your ministry. It's an amazing thing to help people
Yeah.
see what's normal, see what's God given, and then also be able to help them when they're struggling to find that peace and that calm themselves, to give them
Yeah.
the tools to help them to do that. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
You bet. Yeah.
This has been Little Things, because in God's kingdom, the little things are the big things.